Welcome to the Station Wagon. I'm the older brother, Mark.
And I'm little sister, Julie. This is the podcast where my brother and I give up something we take for granted and tell you how it goes.
Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Hey everyone, hey Julie. In this episode of the Station Wagon, we're going to be giving up complaining.
Thanks to Carlos Oberman for the idea. If you have ideas of things we could give up, please send your suggestions to us at wagonpodcast@gmail.com. You can shout out to us on Twitter, we're at wagonpod, or connect with us on Facebook.
So, should we complain about complaining, or should we just get into the definition?
Let's get into the definition. Knowing us, there will definitely be some organic complaints. I don't think we need to script it.
Really, to start this, I was kind of confused about the difference between complaining and criticism, and like how one could show an opportunity for improvement or a gap that can be fixed without actually complaining. Also, right. How to get one's own needs met without complaining about it. And you gotta, hold on a second. I think the cat just pooped in the litter box and I gotta clean that out. Oh, Kendra's gonna go do it. Thanks, wow, Kendi.
You married so well.
I married higher in my status.
Yeah, we both married up.
Okay, so of course I go back to the old favorite, Julie, of Merriam-Webster.
Of course.
Online, because what's a book? So, yeah, thanks. To complain is to express grief, pain, or discontent. Some synonyms of complaining, just to help nail this, are beef, bellyache, bleat, carp, caterwaul, crab, croak, fuss, gripe, grizzle, grouch, grouse, growl, grumble, grump, holler. I don't know what this word is. Inveigh. Have you ever heard that one?
I think it means to complain.
Keen, kick, vetch, maunder.
Wait, did you say kvetch or vetch?
Kvetch.
Kvetch. Okay,
kvetch.
Just checking.
Maunder.
Never heard that one. Nope.
Moan, murmur, mutter, nag, repine, scream, squawk, squeal, wail, whimper, whine, whinge.
Okay, don't know that one either, but I think it's pretty fascinating that there's that many synonyms.
Wait, there's only like 6 more. Yammer, yawp, yowl, and my favorite one, kick up a fuss. So anyway, according to the Open Culture website, complaining can postpone or substitute for the constructive actions we need to take in order to heal or improve our condition. So one of the things that helps with this definition is it's not just to express grief, pain, or discontent, but it's to do it either, the way I'm thinking about it is to somebody who can't do anything about your situation.
Right. What we're giving up is describing grief, pain, discontent to someone who cannot actually take any action to improve our situation.
Right. Exactly.
I think I just restated everything you said, but
no, I
slower.
That's all good.
If you see someone talking to your kid in an inappropriate way, I would hate for you to say, oh, well, I can't complain to them about their actions because of our stupid podcast.
Also, just because you're complaining to another person, obviously we use that to vent a lot. So We're expressing grief, pain, or discontent. But if I complain about the weather, there is no one who can help me with the weather.
Right. Okay, I see what you mean.
Right. So in that case, complaining about the weather is always a complaint. There's never a time when it's not a complaint.
Yep.
Unless you say it in a way that actually doesn't drain you of energy. So like a lot of times we complain and you can actually feel that you are, I don't know, creating negative energy within yourself. I can feel that sometimes. And that sounds kind of woo to me. Just to say that.
I'll be talking just about that in a few minutes.
Okay, cool.
When we get to the highlight of the show, the science stuff.
You know what? I think 2 out of 3 dentists would agree that the highlight of the show is the quiz. Can we move into that?
Yeah.
Julie, if you can name 3 of the top 10 industries that made it into the 2014 list of customer complaints, I'd be very impressed.
Okay, this might go back to our swearing episode because for that one, it was cable companies, general contractors, and I'll say for the third one, proctologists.
Okay, so you got cable companies. That was number 3.
Wow.
Yeah, good job.
We're learning something from doing this podcast. Really valuable information here.
The other two aren't on this top 10 list.
Okay.
And just so you know, the references are in the show notes. This is not something I made up. This is actually
always.
from the Better Business Bureau.
Okay.
Do you want to know just what number one and number two are? So number one, the industry is cellular telephone services and supplies.
Oh, yeah. You should have gone 10 down to 1 and like had the big reveal.
Oh, well, I can
That's
still
okay.
do that. It's a podcast. Do you want to do that way?
No.
No, I like just doing this three. So number two was telephone communications.
Okay. Yeah. Clearly. Yes.
Clearly.
So we're seeing a lot of communications industries from
Right.
1 through 3.
Yep. And that cable one that you mentioned was number 3.
Yep.
Question number 2.
Okay.
In 1982, Saturday Night Live had a recurring sketch about Doug and Wendy Weiner, two habitual complainers, played by Joe Piscopo and Robin Duke. What illness did they claim to suffer from? Was it A, irritable bowel syndrome, B, ulcers, or C, diverticulitis?
I'm guessing ulcers, but I was only 5 at that time, so I don't really remember.
Okay, they do this thing that's pretty amazing called reruns. Also, now it's on YouTube, so...
I was just going to say, is it on Netflix? Can I stream it?
I think so, yeah. It's diverticulitis.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I had to look up what that is. You know what diverticulitis is?
No, what is it?
It is like...
Like scuba divers who... No?
That was really close. I mean, really close. It's actually little pockets that form, I think, in your stomach and intestines that are filled with bacteria and can be extremely painful.
Learning something new on
I'm
the
pretty
Station
sure
Wagon.
that's what it is on the station wagon. We can fit a lot of cargo in the station wagon. Diverticulitis, we're looking for sponsors. What are the top complaints employees have about their leaders? And this is from the Harvard Business Review. Name 3 of these. I'll be very impressed.
Okay.
And since you're a leader in your organization, you probably are doing these things.
Doing the bad things?
Doing the bad things.
Okay. So based on organizations I have heard of in the past.
That we have, right, that we've heard of through friends.
That we've heard of through friends.
Right.
Not that ones we are associated
Exactly. Yep.
with. I would say lack of trust, failure to communicate.
Yep.
And how about difficulty? I was about to say difficulty communicating. Because I guess it's later.
And again, the organization that we're talking about is not one that you're familiar with, just so we're clear. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so lack of trust, difficulty communicating. Do you have a third guess?
How about leaders? No, I won't. Let's see. Bringing cookies. Not
How
bringing
about leaders not making clear and concise, fast decisions?
misuse of PowerPoint graphics. Too many words on a PowerPoint.
No. But you got 2 of them right. Taking credit for others' ideas. I would lump that in with trust, and not giving clear directions and not having time to meet with employees and other things like that I would put into communication. There's others that I put into the show notes as well. So you did pretty bad on that quiz. I'm sorry.
Shocker. Well, maybe I'll learn more from your historical stuff.
I hope so. So what I did is I put together the history based on different complainers through time and just different things about complaints. It's, again, going to feel kind of random, so I apologize to everybody out there. Randomness, we're looking for sponsors. Okay, 1750 BCE, the first recorded customer complaint was written.
Really?
Yeah, and it was a complaint about the delivery of the wrong grade of copper.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So what's the story here?
Right, the irate purchaser.
What's the Hearst story? That's a callback to our last episode.
Yeah, that's good. Will you delete that out of the podcast? In the show notes, you'll see pictures and links to this stuff. But in essence, the purchaser here was a person named Nani writing to someone named E. Nasir, who received a shipment of copper and copper ore of an inferior grade, and after some annoying delay and in a damaged condition.
Wow.
Right. So, I mean, it's exactly like when I received the replacement battery to my kid's remote control helicopter.
Exactly.
Yeah. In 305 BCE, there was a complaint against dishonest tax collectors. Actually, quite a few of them were happening. And in that situation, quote from this is, Artemidoros, the hated of heaven has embezzled as much as 25 association artabas of wheat out of what we had measured for the last half artaba tax. So you know how big of a deal that must have been.
Well, Artaba attack, yeah, totally.
Right. Okay, so now I'm going to fast forward a little bit. 1483, Martin Luther was born.
Yeah.
And, of course, his big complaint was with the Catholic Church. So he put his protest, nailed it right to the church door. Good complaining there.
Yeah, good point.
1872.
And we don't think of him as like a real whiner in history, you know? With each of these complaints,
right.
It's like, it goes back to that definition. Is it a complaint if there's actually like a legitimate bad thing going on that needs rectifying?
Right, exactly. And did Luther actually complain to people who could make a difference? And in this case, probably yes. In 1872, I'm going to talk a little bit about humor because complaining was a big part of humor. And this is one of the first examples I could find. 1872, the flying soup joke gets started.
Oh, yeah.
So here's how it went in 1872.
Okay. Not the version our dad told us.
No, not the version that we may have come to know, and I'll get to that in a minute. But okay, so the guest says, "How come this dead fly in my soup?" Waiter says, "In fact, sir, I have no positive idea how the poor thing came to its death. Perhaps it had not taken any food for a long time, dashed upon the soup, ate too much of it, and contracted an inflammation of the stomach that brought on death. The fly must have had a very weak constitution. For when I served the soup, it was dancing merrily on the surface. Perhaps, and the idea presents itself only at this moment, it endeavored to swallow too large a piece."
Still pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm not done yet. A piece of vegetable. This, remaining fast in his throat, caused a choking in the windpipe. This is the only reason I could give for the death of this insect.
Okay, now it's not funny anymore. Now
that was pretty awful. I mean, really bad. 1934, Ralph Nader he was a very important complainer, and he's not dead yet. But
nice.
Thank you. He came out with the book Unsafe at Any Speed and was huge consumer advocate,
right.
And saved millions and millions of lives with his work of complaining to the right people. Right. So would that actually be a complaint? 1952, the first known use of the word kvetch in the U.S.
Woo-woo.
1960, the fly joke morphed. And here's how the 1960 version goes.
Okay.
"Waiter, what's this fly doing in my soup?" The waiter's answer was swimming, or the backstroke.
The backstroke, right?
Right, the backstroke. 1986, Kvetch, the play, first performance.
That sounds like the worst play ever.
Oh, come on. Well, I am not going to go on one side or the other. They might be wanting to sponsor a podcast soon.
Okay, fair enough.
Right.
Yes, 1967 production of Kvetch.
1986.
Oh, okay. All right.
Were you following my timeline? I went from 1960. Let me explain how this podcast works.
Okay.
So the way it usually works is I say all kinds of things and you interject with, and you follow along so you can add value. All right?
Okay, I'll work on that. Thank you for your feedback.
You're welcome.
And I can rectify the situation.
Do you consider it a gift?
When I receive feedback from really smart people, I consider it an excellent gift.
2007, the book A Complaint-Free World was published.
Oh, what's that about?
Well, it's about the activities of Will Bowen, who's a minister and has a very simple message: quit complaining. And if you do, you'll be happier and healthier. When we start talking about what we're going to do, I'll tell you more about this. I just read this book in preparation for this podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then 2008, FML launches.
Family medical leave?
My life. And it's a collection of user-submitted stories likely to happen to anyone, which, according to them, they publish on the site. And it's really simple. This is a place where you can let it all hang out and unwind by sharing the little things that screw with your day and maybe realize that you are not alone in experiencing day-to-day crap.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I really like it. And if you go there, they all have the same format. Today, blah, 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 and then it ends with FML.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so go check
can you give
that
us
out.
an example?
Yeah. Today, I received the cat that I will be dissecting in my anatomy course. Someone had written property of Taco Bell on the container, FML.
I'm guessing writing those has some sort of positive feeling for the writers, but reading a whole bunch of those certainly seems like a real downer.
Seems like a downer, or they make you laugh, or they
Right.
make you realize you're not alone in the human condition, right?
Misery loves company.
Misery loves company. And I hope you'll talk about that in a second. I just have
will.
one more historical thing to talk about.
Okay.
After I looked at FML, I tried to find anti-complaining sites. So 2013, a cute page at BuzzFeed was published, and the title is Reasons to Stop Saying FML Listicle was written.
Okay.
And like number 5 is puppies exist, and you can go click on a link to watch really super cute puppies.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's history.
Okay, history. Here comes science.
Woohoo!
So, overall, complaining can be good at times, and sometimes not so good. Like a lot of the topics we've talked about, there's everything in moderation, right? So,
Right, yep.
complaining is good if you identify something that needs to be changed. For example, if you see someone committing a crime or doing something that maybe they don't realize is harming someone else, and you can identify for them and simple terms. Wait, what was it that you always used to say? Firm.
Oh, specific, direct, and non-punishing?
Right. If you can be specific, direct, and non-punishing, then that's a great way to complain to help someone change behavior or a state of affairs to make everyone's life better.
Just so you know, that was how to give feedback lesson that I learned when I worked at Hewlett Packard.
Okay, thanks Hewlett Packard.
Yeah.
That is not an endorsement for Feeny.
That's part of the HP way. Go ahead.
Right. It's also good to start a social change. You know, sometimes people have to start complaining first to help others realize that things aren't good. You know, it's not like all of a sudden the consciousness of a nation says, hey, we should have gay marriage. No, it took years and years and decades of complaints and folks raising their voices and saying, hey, this needs to change.
Totally.
In psychology, we talk about the idea of catharsis. When a big thing happens, you just kind of need to let it out. Kind of that debriefing feeling. Another part of catharsis is empathy. Empathy is being able to walk in someone else's shoes. And it feels really good to receive empathy. That's one of the reasons psychotherapy is effective, is having an empathic person listen to you and say, okay, I hear where you're coming from. It sounds like this and this and this. That whole experience of explaining your personal state and what you've experienced and having someone else understand it feels really good and validating.
But if you just have somebody understand it, but can't actually help you fix it, does that matter?
I mean, it sounds like you're hitting on a point I was going to get to, which is about extremes. So there's this, do you know the word rumination?
Sure. That's what cows do. They ruminate, and deer do it also.
Right. They ruminate and rusticate. Okay, rumination is when you think over and over about a negative event or a negative thought. Mm-hmm. And you kind of just keep like working on it. And yeah, just kind of like what a cow does. You're just kind of chewing on your cud and it's always there and it's kind of on your mind all the time. Mm-hmm. Rumination results, it's a cyclical thing with depression and anxiety. If you keep thinking a negative thought over and over, you're going to keep feeling really bad.
Right.
And complaining a lot and talking about these negative events over and over, for example, with friends, can increase rumination. And it ends up not making you feel better. Also, when you're talking about a friendship, there's some studies that are kind of sad that shows that people who do ruminate with friends or who do complain a lot, it decreases their social support. So in other words, the more you kind of complain to others, you're not so much fun to be around. Your good friends are going to want to hear the bad stuff that's going on with you and help, but...
I mean, so do you mean like if you keep bringing up the same story of how your cat was run over by the paper delivery boy over and over and over again? Or do you mean if you just are, everything that you talk about is a complaint? So like, I wasn't sure if you meant like rumination can hurt your social relationships or just complaining in general.
I found studies for both of those.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, even just when I was doing my research, I found like so many different blogs on what to do about the friend who's always complaining, which is kind of sad because you want to feel like, okay, with my friends, I can talk about these complaints.
Right.
And you can in balance. And I think there's probably those who don't have really good social cues who probably do complain more than engage in other kinds of communication. Or if it's not reciprocal, then that's going to be really wearing. Now, one distinction I want to make is experiences of trauma. So if someone experiences trauma, for example, being in a car accident, and maybe seeing someone die or being in a near-death experience, a common psychological disorder that can result from that is post-traumatic stress disorder, or just some sort of post-traumatic stress is very common. And right now, the research is indicating that the best treatments for post-traumatic stress include an exposure component, where a person does actually describe the event multiple times. I talked in a previous...
But to whom?
To a therapist.
Okay, so not to your friend.
Not to your friend, but I'm sure there's probably people for whom probably talking about it to others has the same kind of mechanism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I was really surprised when I would tell my near-death experience to my friends at work that their eyes would glaze over after a while. But it's probably just because of the repetition of the story.
Well, and also that Muppet was not going to kill you, dude.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Okay. So, yeah, prolonged exposure, EMDR, these exposure treatments, they have an individual recite the traumatic experience over and over until the individual habituates. And if you'll recall, habituation is when there's a stimulus or something happening and you just get used to it.
That's assuming that thinking about the trauma causes stress and anxiety.
Exactly.
And habituating it, even though you're forcing a person or creating a situation where they're ruminating on it, helps to decrease the stress and anxiety of thinking about the trauma.
Exactly. Hey, that was a really good description.
You sound surprised.
No, I'm not surprised.
Does there have to be a bar for how traumatic a thing is for that to have impact, for rumination to have a positive impact versus a negative impact?
I wouldn't want to call that rumination, but maybe like it is a reciting, though. It's kind of like a recitation. I mean, rumination is like automatically not very healthy, whereas reciting this trauma is in that controlled setting where a person feels very safe and they're doing like relaxed breathing and things like that. Okay. So it's different from just like sitting around the wine bar with your book club, you know, talking about...
I don't know what you do with your book club.
That's pretty much what I do with my... Right. We sometimes read books.
Oh, okay, sometimes. What else you got?
That's it. That is the science of complaining.
So one thing that's real interesting, I found like a 6-step guide for how to give up complaining. But this is a good segue to what we're actually going to do. Okay. So here's 6 steps that you can use to give up complaining. Number 1, start by defining what a complaint is. Check. We've done that, Julie.
Yes, we have.
2, track how often you complain and about what.
Ooh, tracking. I love to track.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about that if we're going to do that. 3, separate yourself from chronic complainers, and this is going to be one of the questions. 4, turn complaints into solutions. 5, use the butt positive technique.
I'm very butt positive.
I know. That's what I hear. 6, change. That's kind of gross to say about my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6, change have to get to.
Do you have to say it like that? Wait, what?
Change, quote, have to quote, get to. Like, instead of I have to clean the cat poop out of the litter box, I get to clean the cat poop out of the litter box.
Oh my God.
Pretty sure that's what they're talking about. So should we talk about what we're going to do?
Yes. What we should do is not complain to people who have no control over the thing. Like, don't complain about the weather. And if my kid does a weird thing, I don't complain to my mom about it.
We're going to use the part of the definition that we talked about where a complaint is when you talk to somebody who can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk to people unless we have a complaint like, waiter, there's a fly in my soup. Would you please take this back and give me new soup? That's a complaint, but not really, because you're actually complaining to somebody who can do something about it.
It's like a positive complaint.
Right, exactly. I'm going to actually wear a rubber band on my wrist and switch when I complain as sort of a reminder.
From like back and forth, like
Back and
how
forth,
breastfeeding
exactly.
bracelets?
Yes, exactly. And this is something that I got from that book, A Complaint-Free World by Will Bowen. What do we do when other people complain to us? And that's a question that Courtney Jacobson asked me.
Well, Courtney, I think we should
No. Don't talk to Courtney. I just asked you the question. Talk to me.
But I like Courtney better.
Yeah, she's pretty nice.
Okay. So, Courtney, Mark's pretty weird, huh?
Okay.
You want to hear some funny stories about him when he was a kid?
Okay.
Okay, I think we should be empathic and not say, no complaints, I'm doing my podcast thing.
Okay.
Because then people will hate us.
But what if they already do?
We're already kind of annoying to our coworkers, I
Okay.
think. With all
So
this.
we will let people complain, but we won't like one up.
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
We won't
be like,
one
oh
up
my
and we
gosh.
won't contribute to it. We'll say, that sounds awful.
Yep.
And we won't do like the little miniature violin thing with our fingers.
Right.
Or say, would you like some cheese with that wine?
Right.
Okay.
Right, exactly. I think we're going to gain some insight over the next couple of weeks.
I do,
I'm
too.
really looking forward to this one because I do think I complain too much.
I do too, and it'll be really interesting. And I've been telling people that they should do this with me, including my children and my wife, and they're all like, no, we're not doing this with you.
I heard similar reactions.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think is going to be the hardest?
I think the hardest part of this will be just keeping my big mouth shut, because I like to call it as I see it.
For me, it's going to be, when something weird happens, I like to make it into a funny story and make people laugh. And
that's much better than my thing.
Yeah, I know.
Wait,
eventually, we're going to have to do a stop making stupid jokes out of everything challenge.
I'm with you on that one.
I'm not quite ready for it yet. I'm in pre-contemplation.
All right.
Psychology joke for y'all out there. Okay, so shall we take a quick break and let everyone listen to the pleasure kills while we work on not complaining?
That sounds great.
I sometimes can complain, not gonna lie. I mean, we all do it, right? The thing is, when I have a team of tight-knit group of people that I work with, they'll say, you're whining again, why are you doing that? And from there, we're able to improve and work on, our attitude, because obviously, I mean, negativity, when you do surround yourself with negative people, it tends to spread. And so for me, I like to try and be positive, and I like to surround myself with people who are a positive influence, and complaining is just another negative factor.
My fortune says avoid focusing on the negative aspects of the past. If you skinned one knee, and then you would think about the positive, which would be, luckily I didn't skin both knees. Except I did that once.
Thank you, Rosanna and Elsa.
Hey, listeners, we're excited to tell you that we ranked in the top 10 of the King 5 Best of Western Washington local podcast category. So yes, you could say we are now mildly famous local podcast celebrities. Thanks to everyone who voted for us.
We're also excited to tell you we have our very first legit sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by Rumble Marketing.
That's right. They are our very first sponsor. Sorry, Roman Empire, you lost out.
Rumble Marketing will help you explain even complicated products and services simply, crisply, and with compelling emotional resonance.
So that even Mark can understand.
That's really nice, Julie. Thank
Thanks.
you. Call Rumble to nail down your brand voice, communicate key product messaging, or schedule an award-winning workshop to train your sales and executive teams to create more effective business communications.
Visit rumblemarketing.com, read about them on LinkedIn or see more details in our show notes.
Perfect.
Get your business some.
Thank you, sponsor. Hey, Julie, welcome back. How are you doing?
Actually, pretty great. This has been awesome. This is one of my favorite things we've ever done.
You know, actually, it has been one of my favorite things that we've done too. So go ahead, tell me all about it. How did it go?
It went great. At work, though, it was the best. Definitely, I found I was the person I want to be when I'm not complaining. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, so like you want to be like Tinkerbell. No, wait. No, that's not right. You want to be like that woman from Pollyanna. Oh, I was going to go with the woman from that other Disney movie.
Buffy.
Yeah, that's who you want to be.
So I really focused a lot on when I had a complaint, thinking about, okay, instead of just kvetching, what is a direct way I can take care of this? So, for example, on the first day of work, at least, I was blamed, not a serious thing, but still kind of blamed for just a little administrative error.
Did you eat somebody's food out of the refrigerator?
No. And normally when something like that happened, if I was in a bad enough mood, I might have emailed one of my coworkers and been like, ugh, get this, or sighed really loud. And instead I just, didn't.
What does that sound like when you sigh really loud? Is it like a,
It's more of a Marge Simpson kind of, so I didn't do that. And I found I was probably a lot easier to be around. One of the things that I know is a growing edge for me personally is a little bit more self-editing, a little bit less interrupting, a little bit more basically being really mindful of what I'm saying to other people, which is, I think, a lot of what our podcast topics coming up over the next year are going to be about. So, yeah, I just liked that. It was like the work Julie I want to be.
Whoa.
And I think I've been a lot better since I've become a manager at not complaining to others, but it's still there. Like you said last time, it's still in our DNA to complain. Mm-hmm. So at work, great. At home, well, Jason kind of used this against me.
What?
So,
come on.
Like tonight at dinner, I was like, oh, I have this dilemma I really want to talk to you about, but I can't figure out how to talk to you about it just to get your input.
Well, he's allowed to complain.
Right. No, but it was my thing that.
Oh, you wanted to talk to him.
Yeah, because he's
sorry,
really...
I should pay more attention during these podcasts.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah,
so he's really smart and stuff. When I have issues, I like to bounce ideas off him. And I was like, I just don't know how to do this without complaining. And he's like, well, you should just wait. And, after your episode's over, we can talk about it. And I was like, no, I think it's okay because if I'm coming to you for guidance, and he was like, no, you should wait. Wait.
Wait, did he just not want to talk to you about it?
And I finally said, are you just saying that so that you don't have to hear my dilemma? And he's like,
busted.
The one time that it was hard is when I was with one of my best friends over the weekend. She's one of those people who I know has unconditional love for me, and so I can tell her about... Yeah, and I can tell her about the stupid things I do and complain about the ridiculous things and know she will take my side, even though I feel like I can say, get this, blah, 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 and then I just get it out. She's not going to try to solve a problem for me. It's going to be a nice cathartic release, but it's not that rumination we talked about last time where I keep talking about it over and over. Once I get it out and I get that empathic response, I'm kind of done.
Do you want to hear how it went for me?
I do want to hear how it went for you.
Or did you want to talk more about you?
No, I want to hear all about you, Mark.
It was great. I agree with you that this was, for me, this was the best one yet. Best thing that we've given up yet, and I think
I'm surprised. I thought you were going to hate this.
I was surprised too in myself, but I actually think that this was the most. I'm currently not going to go as far as saying it's life changing, but definitely behaviorally changing.
Like what? How?
First of all, going back to the first half of this episode, where I was talking about that book that I read and how I picked up some interesting concepts from that book. And I still agree. I still think that's a good book for people to read. I kept in my head that I would only complain to somebody who could do something about it. So a lot like what you were just saying about making your complaints into actions. And if I couldn't complain to somebody who could actually do something about it, I just kept it inside because I don't really care what's rattling around in my skull. At first, I would catch myself going down the path of complaining about things, about whether it's just something around me at work or at home.
Like
some
what?
person.
Like what was one of the things that was irking you?
Well, one thing is just complaining about the weather. It's starting to get cold here and
Yeah.
rainy, and nobody can do anything about the weather. No one's going to go out and get me a new hat. So it's just complaining and venting. And if I complain, it's just going to create, because I know people, it's going to create a spiral of negativity. And this is something from the book, that complaining makes you feel gives you a certain energy. It actually feels like it's draining to you when you complain. And that was just a barometer that I used when I would start talking, because I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying something negative. I think that what I tried to do was not talk about something in a negative way that gave me that drained, tired, sapping of my energy kind of feeling that complaining usually does.
This is just one of those that I would definitely recommend to our listeners to try.
Totally. So one thing that did happen to me over the last 2 weeks, and I don't know what I was doing, like I think I was just existing and being old. My shoulder, where it connects to my necular region, was I could move it, but it hurt so incredibly bad, and I didn't complain one bit. I said, when I got home, I said to my family, hey, I've got to ice and do this stuff to my shoulder, and then I can sit down for dinner. But I didn't whine and moan as a little baby, as I am known to do. So it completely changed, probably. I'm curious about what my family thought about that, if it seemed different to them, if I just seemed matter of fact about it.
But based on our swearing episodes, you should have been dropping F-bombs and things to relieve some of the pain.
I just went to better living through chemicals, actually.
Do you think maybe it was like a physiological thing?
No, like a psychosomatic, like keeping it all bottled up.
Exactly.
No, I think what was happening was that my children wrestled with me the night before, and that they broke me.
Broke you?
Yes. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Julie, that was great hearing about your experiences and stuff. So can we talk about...
Nice fake segue.
Yeah, thanks. Can we talk about... I got to work on my segues. Maybe there's a book on how to do segues. So Julie, a listener calling herself Elsa of Arendelle, gave us this idea. That we should give up wearing different clothes every day. So essentially we would wear the same outfit for 2 weeks. Not to say that we would have
the same dirty clothes.
Right. We could clean our clothes, of course, but they would have to be the same clothes every day for 2 weeks. What do you think?
Actually, this one sounds pretty interesting. My only concern, of course, is just, people at work being really concerned about me. But I'd really like to try that. Just imagine all the time you'd save having to think about, what do I wear?
Yeah, all you'd have to do is a sniff test. Like I might wear something to work that's the same every day at work, and then come home and change to something that's the same at home every day.
Like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, like Mr. Rogers, exactly, except a cooler, hipper version of Mr. Rogers.
That's what you think. Yeah, I will consider this one. I need to figure out how to do it so that it doesn't negatively affect my career.
Well, thank you, Elsa of Arendelle, and hope you figure out that problem you're having with the freezing and stuff.
I'm so glad you had to explain that joke even more, just in case people didn't quite catch it.
Hey, listeners, go to wagonpod.com where you can listen to even more of our episodes, view our show notes, which has our full list of history, stuff, and references that we talked about during the show. And you can also subscribe to the podcast.
You can connect with us on Facebook, the Station Wagon Podcast, and Twitter at WagonPod.
And please give us iTunes reviews.
That's right, just like Jimbo Slice 3, whose awesome review showed up last week. Thank you so much. And we really, really appreciate that if you have an iTunes account.
Yeah, and just like Elsa of Arendelle, if you have ideas for what we can give up, send them to us in any way that you can possibly contact us. Pretty much if you trip over the internet, you'll contact us.
Thank you to the Pleasure Kills, as always.
Thank you, Pleasure Kills.
For the use of the song Modern Problems.
Mm-hmm. And thanks to our families, spouses, and kids for supporting us and helping us think